Daily Devotion with Pastor Balla for July 16, 2020 from 1 Samuel chapter 25. Another wife for David? Before we start ringing the wedding bells for David, let's start with Samuel. Verse 1, Now Samuel died, and all Israel assembled and mourned for him, and they buried him in his house at Ramah. Then David rose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. David is now protecting Israel, not just from external threats like the Philistines, but also from internal threats, very similar to like our local law enforcement. Verse 2, And there was a man in Maon whose business was in Carmel. The man was very rich. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. He was shearing his sheep in Carmel. So David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, Go up to Carmel, and go to Nabal, and greet him in my name. And thus you shall greet him, Peace be to you, and peace to your house, and peace to all that you have. Verse 7, I hear that you have shearers. Now your shepherds have been with us, and we did them no harm, and they missed nothing all the time they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we come on a feast day. Please give whatever you have at hand to your servants and to your son David. Like local law enforcement, the property is protected. Unlike local law enforcement, David has no means for taxing the people so he and his men can eat. So instead of taxing the people, David waited until the sheep were being sheared. Why? Well, the owner would be providing big meals for the shearers, and of course there would be some extras. So David was asking for the extras for his men, especially since they didn't lose any sheep to any wild animals or any theft. Nabal's response was no, even though he heard from his own men that David's men were good to him and protected them, and there was no loss. David got angry when he heard the no response, and his response to the no was, then let's kill Nabal. However, one of Nabal's men told Abigail, Nabal's wife. She in turn ordered bread and wine to be baked and delivered to David's men. Abigail met David before he got to her husband Nabal and said in verse 28, Please forgive the trespass of your servant, for the Lord will certainly make my Lord a sure house, because my Lord is fighting the battles of the Lord, and evil shall not be found in you as long as you live. David heard what Abigail said, and David noted that she actually saved him from killing Nabal, because that was his intent. So Abigail returned home, waited the next day to tell Nabal about David. Verse 37, In the morning, when the wine had gone out of Nabal, his wife told him these things, and his heart died within him, and he became as a stone. And about 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died. When David heard that Nabal died, he sent some of his men to Abigail to bring her back to David so that he could take her as a wife. She went with the men of David and became David's wife. But you may ask, what about David's first wife? Well, let's go back in time for a moment. You may remember that Saul first promised Merab to David, but then after the wedding gave Merab to somebody else. Then Saul gave Michal to David, and then after David left Saul gave Michal to somebody else. Wow, wasn't really good for David to be married to any of the daughters of Saul. Join me again tomorrow as we hear about how Saul is now enticed to go after David again. God's peace and many blessings be with you. Thank you for watching, and please take an opportunity to share this video with others. If you have enjoyed these daily devotions, please consider making a donation to Peace Lutheran Church, 24024 West Main Street, Plainfield, Illinois, 60544. Thank you again for watching.